Well, good morning, my friends. Good morning. Good to see you this morning. Well, not literally see. I can't literally see you, but good to be gathered together in this way. I look forward to these opportunities. I look even more forward to the opportunities where I can actually see you, where we can see each other in physical presence, but it's not always possible. It's not always possible. So, again, thanks for joining me this morning. Love to be able to do this with you. There's something. Let's put in. Um, Sorry, I was distracted. I was distracted. But we're here for a purpose. We're here for PB Reads the Bible, which is our small group where we gather together, usually on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 9 o'clock in the morning. And I read from the Bible because I am PB, Pastor Brian, pastor here at St. Andrew's United Methodist Church. And I'm also the pastor at Bethany United Methodist Church. Both of them are here in Milton, Pennsylvania. And today is, today is Thursday, July 17th, and it is now 9:01 a.m. And for the folks that are joining me live, the same would hold true for you. But I know that's not always the case. I know a number of folks aren't able to join live, so they join some other time. Welcome to all of you. Welcome to all of you. That's great. A couple things I'd ask you to do. The first is to check in, to Romper Room Roll Call. Let me know that you're there, because all I see on Facebook is a number, usually. I do see a couple things once in a while, but usually I just see the number, and it helps if you let me know. Even if, or maybe even especially if, you're not joining live, because then I have absolutely no idea. I like that, not because I'm keeping track, but because I just want to know who it is so I can keep you in my prayers as we go through things. So prayer is the next thing. Whatever it is that's giving you joy or weighing you down, put it in the comments section of the stream. Or you can always send me a text, 570-351-1619. And we'll keep those in our prayers. Not only our opening prayer this morning, but prayers throughout the week, and I encourage everyone to do that. And the same is true if you're not joining live, because I go back in to see who's been here and to read what you've shared. Joys, concerns. So also, comments and questions. Please share those things as well. And I'll do my best to answer all that stuff. I try to keep my eyes, at least partially in my peripheral vision, on the Facebook stream, on the comments section. Sometimes it doesn't show me things until later. I don't know why. But I do go back in to try to capture all that and answer questions. So I see some good mornings. Good morning, John and Cindy. Wonderful to have you with us this morning. Good morning, Bonnie. Good morning, Crystal. And good morning, Maureen. Wonderful. Good to see you folks this morning. Excuse me on that one. So we're going to jump in with prayer. And then our reading for today. Today is Mark chapter 5. So, hey, it's possible, of course, that somebody might be just joining us for the first time. Welcome. Great. Maybe you were scrolling through your stream and happened to see us and decided to click and see what was going on. Welcome. Now, we are on Mark chapter 5. That's what, like I said, we'll be doing chapter 5 today. So that does mean you missed a few episodes, a few chapters. Don't let that stop you. Please join us for today, and you can always go scroll down on Facebook after we're done here today and catch up. There was an introduction, then there was chapters 1, 2, 3, and 4. So there's 5 episodes sitting out there somewhere, Facebook, or also on our YouTube channel. You can see them there as well. And good morning, Sharon. Good to see you this morning as well. So, prayer. Crystal shared that she was able to get an appointment. Her appointment with her doctor moved up to, I think she said, Monday appointment. So that's wonderful news. Doesn't have to wait as long to get the results of the MRI and find out what's going on and what the prognosis and plan is for her healing. So that's wonderful. Well, at the same time, this coming week is the Montour de Long Fair, and Crystal and family are participating in the fair with their veggies as well as some crafts, and so they've got a lot. In spite of her struggles with her knee, she's going to be. Sounds like you're going to be on your feet a lot this week, Crystal. So prayers for that as well. All right, so let us be in prayer. Gracious God, we give you thanks for this glorious day that you have given to us. Actually, some sunshine right now, which for me is wonderful. We thank you especially for this opportunity to gather together through this technology across distance and across time. But more especially, it's possible because of your grace. We are connected to each other through you. So thank you for that. And thank you for your presence with us this morning. Open our hearts and our minds to what you would have us receive as we go through our study. And of course, you do know everything that's on our hearts and our minds. We lift Crystal to you. We continue to pray for her and for Anna from her tests the other day, that she'll get some results soon. And everything else, things we've shared, things we haven't shared. But of course, you know them all, Papa. Thank you. Amen. All right. A sip of tea before I try to talk. All right. So, chapter 5. The end of chapter 4 was the story, Mark's telling of a story of the storm on the sea. And I said it has a couple cue words in there and stuff. And it said that they were going to the other side of the lake. He said, let's go to the other side of the lake, which means he's moving out of Israel and into Gentile territory, into the region known as the Decapolis, the 10 cities. This marks the first time that Mark has Jesus going into Gentile land, going specifically into Gentile land. There were some people from Gentile territories who came to Jesus because they had heard about that. Remember back a ways, there was that long list of all these places that people came from, and a number of them are outside of Israel proper. But this is the first time that Jesus is going there. Now, something I didn't say about water when we were talking about this the other day, I know I've said it before, like if you did the Genesis study, I said it a lot, I'm sure. Water is very symbolic in literature, especially in the Bible. Water is symbolic of chaos. We could see that in that story in chapter 4, that the water was very chaotic. The storm came up very quickly, and chaos is let loose. It's not under control, which the first Genesis story shows us God putting water under control. And so Jesus exemplifies God in that he's able to control chaos, put it back under control, immediately speaks and quiets things down. So keep that in mind whenever you hear stories about water. Water is symbolic, can be symbolic for chaos. It can be symbolic and used for other purposes as well. But keep it in the back of your mind. Water equals chaos whenever you're hearing these stories. So, chapter 5. Jesus and his disciples came to the other side of the lake, to the region of the Gerasenes. As soon as Jesus got out of the boat, a man possessed by an evil spirit came out of the tombs. This man lived among the tombs, and no one was ever strong enough to restrain him, even with a chain. He had been secured many times with leg irons and chains, but he broke the chains and smashed the leg irons. No one was tough enough to control him. Night and day in the tombs and the hills he would howl and cut himself with stones. Pause. So, across the lake, they're in the area of the Gerasenes. Mark seems to have taken liberty with geography, because where he has Gerasa isn't where historians show Gerasa. He has it right on the lake, right on the sea, when in fact it's like 30 miles from the sea. Not a big deal. He's taken a couple liberties, perhaps, with the story, or that may show too that he's not familiar with the area, and so he may not be the person we thought he was, or traditionally said he was. He may not have been from that area. That's all. Of course, it is possible that he knew where Gerasa was, but he moved it for the purpose. He does need to have a place by the sea. He does need to have a place by the sea. So Jesus gets out of the boat, and this man comes running. Now notice about it, some things about it. A man with an evil spirit came out of the tombs. The man lived among the tombs. To me, I catch some like irony in there. He lived among the tombs. The tombs are a place of death, and yet this man is living among the tombs. He's living in a place of death. The other thing we need to hear, and I mean, still, we wouldn't like the idea of living in the tombs. Would you want to live in a cemetery? I mean, yes, you'd have a whole bunch of quiet neighbors, but the idea of living right in a cemetery, or even right next to a cemetery, can be kind of creepy, kind of eerie to the whole thing. The idea for first century people, especially Jews, especially a Jewish audience, a cemetery is unclean. The tombs are unclean. That's why, and in the Gospels, Jesus uses that parable, that story about whitewashed tombs. They painted the tombs, they whitewashed the tombs, made them as bright as they could, so that you didn't accidentally touch one and become unclean. So this man, demon possessed, is an outcast. That's in multiple ways. But one of them is this uncleanness. He's been separated from community, can't live with community. He's living amongst the dead, and it's unclean. No, even the chains and whatever kind of handcuffs things they used, leg irons, weren't strong enough. He would overcome them easily. No one was tough enough to control him. He would howl and cut himself with stones. We can see that in this language, this story that Mark is telling, how far this man has descended, we might say, from humanity. He's virtually no longer human. He's howling, so he has become very animalistic, very much an animal. So that's kind of the point here for Mark. And yeah, he's trying to cut himself with stones, hurting himself. Picking up from there, verse 6. When he saw Jesus from far away, he ran and knelt before him, shouting, "What have you to do with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? Swear to God that you won't torture me." Pause. So he comes running and he kneels before Jesus. Now, often we think of kneeling as a form of honor, a form of worship. But that's not his point. He's kneeling before him, to kind of beg him for his life and stuff like that. And mostly he just wants him to go away, Contrast this, what he says in verse 7, to what the disciples are saying in chapter 4, verse 41. They say, they overcome with awe, and they said, "Who is this? Even the wind and sea obey him." That's after he stilled the storm. Jesus hasn't done anything yet, and this guy, possessed by demons, knows who Jesus is. Swear to God that you won't torture me. No, Mark throws in this next little piece, and because it's not there actually in some of the other versions of the story, in particular in, I believe, the Gospel of Thomas. Verse 8, he says this because Jesus had already commanded him, unclean spirit, come out of the man. Mark wants to try to set things in a correct order, but other ones don't have that in there. This guy just comes running up and begs for mercy from Jesus before Jesus said anything in those stories. What's the difference? Well, I think Mark wanted to make sure that he was keeping that exorcism right in the correct order, as it had happened in the other times that Jesus speaks, and then the demons speak in a way to try to prevent him from doing anything, to try to take away Jesus' power, which doesn't work. But still remember that the demon, not only does the demon say that he's son of Jesus, that he's the son of the high God, the most high God, he actually names him. He says, "You are Jesus." Verse 9, Jesus asked him, "What is your name?" He responded, "Legion is my name, because we are many." They pleaded with Jesus not to send them out of that region. Pause. It's interesting that the demon would give up his name to Jesus, because the philosophy, the understanding in ancient cultures is when you know the name, you have power. So the demon had Jesus' name, thought it had power over Jesus, but he didn't. Then he willingly surrenders his name to Jesus, probably because he couldn't not do it. Did Jesus need the name to overpower the demon? No. This is more proof of what Jesus had said earlier, as far as having Satan, the strong man, tied up. Satan is powerless, and his demons are powerless in front of him. Verse 11, a large herd of pigs. Oh, back to this though, the name Legion. Sorry, let's pause there. Let's stick with this idea of Legion. We understand the term Legion as many, larger group, and that's true. But we may not catch the whole meaning if we only think of it that way. A legion is a particular military description in the ancient Roman Empire's army. A legion was a particular group, and it can be described in a couple different ways. One is like 6,000 infantry and a couple hundred cavalry or something like that. Others say it was about 2,500 people in it. So there's a pretty wide disparity of descriptions. That second one, though, is matches up nicely with the rest of this story. Based on the number of pigs. Spoiler alert. But even beyond the numbers, thinking of it as Roman military, this might be Mark's way, or whoever named the character in the story, because remember again, people weren't writing this stuff down as Jesus as it happened. So the stories may have changed a little bit between when they happened and when they got around to writing them down, like in an old game of telephone or gossip or whatever you called it when you were a kid. And so they may have intentionally used this Roman military term, legion, because of how the Roman military was, and how the Roman Empire was taking away the humanity of the people of Israel, because they were oppressing them and conquering them. And yet we have Jesus completely able to overcome the Roman military in the story. Interesting. All right, picking up from there, verse 11. A large herd of pigs was feeding on the hillside. More proof that this is not a Jewish territory, right? Send us into the pigs, they begged. Let us go into the pigs. Jesus gave them permission. So the unclean spirits left the man and went into the pigs. Then the herd of about 2,000 pigs rushed down the cliff into the lake and drowned. Pause. Remember what I said earlier about water and being chaos. So these demons wanted Jesus to let them go into the pigs, and then they rushed into the waters of chaos, and drowned. because they don't have power over chaos. Only Jesus has power over chaos. Only God, as Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, have power over chaos, not these demons. And they ended up killing the animals that they had been put into, and then they themselves would have probably been sucked into whatever form of hell would have been reserved for them. Verse 14, those who tended the pigs ran away and told the story in the city, in the countryside. People came to see what had happened. They came to Jesus and saw the man who used to be demon-possessed. They saw the very man who had been filled with many demons sitting there, fully dressed and completely sane, and they were filled with awe. Those who had actually seen what had happened to the demon-possessed man told the others about the pigs. Then they pleaded with Jesus to leave their region. Pause. So they're filled with awe, still don't know, can't put they're not putting one and one together and making two. They don't know, they're not able to figure this out. Only the demons so far have been able to identify Jesus as the Son of God. Not the disciples, not this group that's come. They're filled with awe. They're amazed at this miracle that has happened, that has taken place, but they're still not making that connection. Jesus to them is still just a miracle worker, a miracle healer, and an exorcist. And they pleaded with Jesus to leave their region. We don't really know why. It could be because of this. Some say it's because, he damaged their economy by allowing those demons to go into the pigs and the pigs all dying. That's probably not the case. It probably has more to do with this inbreaking of the kingdom of God, which just made them uncomfortable. And they weren't sure what to do with Jesus or who he was. And so they would rather he be away from them. They would rather he be away from them. Verse 18. While he was climbing into the boat, the one who had been demon-possessed pleaded with Jesus to let him come along as one of his disciples. But Jesus wouldn't allow it. Go home to your own people, Jesus said, and tell them what the Lord has done for you and how he has shown you mercy. Pause. Jesus wasn't done healing this man. He healed him from his demon possession. He restored him to life, got him out of the tombs. He no longer had to live with the dead. Now Jesus wants to restore him to his family. Go back to your people and tell them what God has done for you, but go back to your people. He wants to restore him to his family and to his community. He wants to restore him to relationship. This man had no relationship with anyone for who knows how long. Picking up from there. The man went away and began to proclaim in the 10 cities all that Jesus had done for him, and everyone was amazed. Pause. So, some can read this. If you read it very literally, it sounds like the man doesn't go home. And we can think back to the leper that Jesus said, go and tell go tell the priests, even though he was angry when he was saying that. And the guy didn't. He went and told other people. This guy, if you read it literally, it sounds like he also didn't listen to Jesus. But who's to say he didn't go to his family first and start with them? And over time, he was proclaiming to all the 10 cities all about Jesus, everything that he had done for him. Picking up from there. Jesus crossed the lake again, so he's back in Israel, Galilee. And on the other side, a large crowd gathered around him on the shore. Jairus, I can never get a good pronunciation on his name. I've heard it so many different ways over the years, so I'm just going to say Jairus. One of the synagogue leaders came forward. When he saw Jesus, he fell at his feet and pleaded with him. My daughter is about to die. Please come and place your hands on her so that she can be healed and live. So Jesus went with him. A swarm of people were following Jesus, crowding in on him. A woman was there who had been bleeding for 12 years. She had suffered a lot under the care of many doctors and had spent everything she had without getting any better. In fact, she had gotten worse. Because she had heard about Jesus, she came up behind him in the crowd and touched his clothes. She was thinking, if I could just touch his clothes, I'll be healed. Her bleeding stopped immediately, and she sensed in her body that her illness had been healed. At that very moment, Jesus recognized that power had gone out from him. He turned around in the crowd and said, "Who touched my clothes?" His disciples said to him, "Don't you see the crowd pressing against you? Yet you ask, 'Who touched me?'" But Jesus looked around carefully to see who had done it. The woman, full of fear and trembling, came forward. Knowing what had happened to her, she fell down in front of Jesus and told him the whole truth. He responded, "Daughter, your faith has healed you. Go in peace, healed from your disease." Pause. So, we didn't finish the whole story yet. I know. We'll get to the rest of the story, but we're stopping here, and I want to compare and contrast a couple of the characters and a couple of the parts of the story so far. All right, so far we have Jairus and an unnamed woman. Jairus and an unnamed woman. Now, Jairus is a respected man about town. He is a leader in the synagogue, in his synagogue in that town, that community. Well respected, used to people asking favors and things of him. And yet, he's reached a point where he has nowhere else to go. And so he becomes the one who falls down before somebody else. He kneels at the feet he fell at Jesus' feet to beg him for help. Not for himself, for his daughter. And, okay, spoiler alert, we're going to find out that his daughter is 12 years old. I think there's a connection here. And Jesus says, "Okay, I'll go." Meanwhile, we have an unnamed woman. An unnamed woman who, because of this bleeding, which isn't just regular bleeding, it's not like a cut or something like that. We're talking excuse me. We're talking menses. We're talking a menstrual cycle that's been going on for 12 years. That's the kind of bleeding we're talking about here. It may not be clear in some translations, but that's what we're talking about. Now, the thing about menstruation, it makes a person unclean. Even after menstruation stops, it's like 7 days or something like that. And you gotta clean in a particular way. You have to go through a purification, right, to become clean. So she's unclean, not supposed to touch anyone. People aren't supposed to touch her because they become unclean. And she's been dealing with this for 12 years. She has, I'm sure, repeatedly dropped. So she's not well respected. She is not well respected. That would be my point here. She is outcast. She's on the outside. Jairus is on the inside. She's on the outside. She's used to begging people for help. And she's tried everything. And now, in her faith, she says, "I don't even need to touch Jesus. Jesus doesn't have to touch me. I don't want to make him," probably thinking, I don't want to make him unclean and impure. I just need to touch his clothes. I just need to touch his clothes. And immediately when she does, he's healed. But rather than thinking that it's a miracle thing, Jesus said, that it's some sort of weird voodoo magic power coming out of his clothes. Jesus makes it very clear, your faith has healed you. Your faith has healed you. But notice that's in verse 34, but notice the word that comes right before that. Daughter. She goes from being called woman, just woman, repeatedly. She's a woman, a woman, a woman. He calls her daughter. Now Jairus has just asked Jesus to go save his daughter, who is 12 years old. And Jesus is now speaking to his daughter, who has been inflicted with this menstruation issue for 12 years. I see a connection there. He is recognizing the fact with that simple word, daughter, he is seeing her. And she's a person who's probably used to not being seen. She would have been outcast, moved away from society. People wouldn't want to be anywhere near her. They would avoid her, and they would definitely avoid eye contact. Don't look. Don't make eye contact. Don't make eye contact. But he doesn't. He looks directly at her, and even it says there, he looked around carefully to see who had done it, who had tried it, who had touched his clothes. And with that simple word daughter, he is recognizing her. He is elevating her to a new status. He is returning her to community. And I think, especially because he says this right after, because right after that he says, your faith has healed you. He is identifying her as part of this new family. Just as if she's my mother, my father, my brother, my sister, my daughter. My daughter. Go in peace, healed from your disease. Picking up from there, verse 35. While Jesus was still speaking with her, messengers came from the synagogue leader's house, saying to Jairus, your daughter has died. Why bother the teacher any longer? But Jesus overheard their report and said to the synagogue leader, don't be afraid. Just keep trusting. Trusting. Pause. Because remember what I said about faith. The word faith, we think of it as belief, but a better understanding of it is belief and trust. And it's overcoming just about any obstacle, just as this woman, Jesus' daughter, did. Continuing. He didn't allow anyone to follow him except Peter, James, and John, James's brother. They came to the synagogue leader's house, and he saw a commotion with people crying and wailing loudly. He went in and said to them, what's all this commotion and crying about? The child isn't dead, she's only sleeping. They laughed at him, but he threw them all out. Taking the child's parents and his disciples with him, he went to the room where the child was. Taking her hand, he said to her, Talitha koum, which means, young woman, get up. Suddenly, the young woman got up and began to walk around. She was 12 years old. They were shocked. He gave them strict orders that no one should know what had happened. Then he told them to give her something to eat. End of chapter 5. So, not a whole lot to talk about in that last section because I talked so much about it in the earlier part, right? But yeah, so I'm seeing that connection with that number 12. They're both 12. It's about 12 years. She's been suffering. It's about 12 years. She's about 12 years old, this little girl. So I think there's something there. Of course, there's also, the number 12 is a symbolic number. It's one of those perfect or complete numbers. It's a complete number. Just like the 12 tribes of Israel and Jesus' 12 disciples. That's one of those numbers that keeps coming back. So it's a complete number. And when we look at it that way, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, that means that this woman had this menstrual flow for a complete period of time. Wow. And this girl was at a complete age. Interesting. interesting. Which is actually, at that time, would have been pretty much a complete age. She's almost to the age of being married. You know, that usually took place at late preteen, early teenage years. It certainly could, anyway. Oh, all right, my friends. That's. I think that's it for today. We'll be back at this next week. I think. I think we will be. Anyway, let me check. It might be easier for me to check actually on my phone than on anything else. So Google Calendar. Yes, and it looks like, at least right now, both the Tuesday the 22nd and Thursday the 24th we should be good. By tomorrow night on TBN, 8 p.m. Esther. Ooh, Esther. Cool. Esther is always a great story. I like the story of Esther. Don't know. So thank you for letting us know about that. Try to catch that. I'm not sure if I get TBN on my Hulu subscription or not, but we'll have to try to give that a shot. Anyway, my friends, that's going to be it for me for today. So thank you for joining me whenever it is you join me, and thank you, just thank you for taking time out of your days to make this connection with me. So again, next Tuesday, the 22nd, will be our next session, but between Thursday and Tuesday is Sunday. That's right, Sunday. So Sunday we continue our worship series, God's Grand Design, and our theme is unity doesn't mean uniformity. Doesn't mean uniformity. That's at least our. And the sermon's title is God's Mosaic. Ooh, hopefully that piques your interest a little bit. Say you're interested in joining us for worship. So, as I mentioned earlier, and I've mentioned before, I do serve the two churches here in Milton, Bethany and St. Andrews. You're welcome to join us for worship at either church, 9 o'clock at Bethany, and actually we're gonna try to live stream to their Facebook page this week. Don't know how it's going to work, but if you're up and around at 9 o'clock, well, first of all, we'd love to have you join us in person for that. But if you can't, try their Facebook page and let me know how the live stream works on that. And if you can't do that one, though, again, join us here at St. Andrews, 10:30 for live, as well as for live stream. You know, you can do in person or live stream at 10:30 here at Facebook. The other thing, of course, you can do is join us here at St. Andrews at 9 o'clock. That's their Sunday school hour here. And several of the Sunday school groups went together for a couple months, and they're watching the newest season of The Chosen and having conversation about that. So I'm sure they would love to have more folks join them there as well. Anyway, my friends, that's all I have to say. Again, thanks for joining me. Hopefully this has been beneficial to you, that you've learned something or relearned something. As you go about your day, keep those eyes and ears, physical and spiritual, open to everything God is doing, living, loving, active God is doing in your life and the lives of those around you. When you see it, when you hear it, say, thank you, Papa, and then tell somebody about it. Until we meet again, my friends, be blessed. Be blessed. Bye.